So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Galaxy S25 Ultra versus iPhone 16 speed test. David versus Goliath over here. Let's see how a beast iPhone stacks up to a top tier flagship in daily speed. So let's go ahead and start with the app test. So we'll go with calendar here. And you can see a little faster there for the S25 Ultra. Now keep in mind, we already know one of the biggest differences here is going to be the animations, but also the 120 hertz. So you'll see both of them once in app are pretty much the same, because this is going to be a good way to see in this video how much of a difference maybe 120 hertz makes as well. We are going to do some real world testing of the usage in a minute. But so far, it looks like you do get a performance enhancement going with the bigger and badder Galaxy S25 Ultra on the left in terms of, just a little bit better animation speed and seeming to be just a little bit smoother looking so far. All right, so let's how they do on YouTube. And you can see, I think that was, it looked like the S25 Ultra, but then this one finished loading it. Let's go into the trending tab here. On both, we'll go to music. Gaming, movies. As we swipe through, S25 Ultra faster, a little bit slower scrolling there as usual for iOS. Let's swipe up out of there. We'll go to App Store, Play Store. And that seemed to load first on the iPhone. Let's hit apps. Faster on the Ultra. Let's go ahead, just kind of swipe through there, and you could see that scrolling definitely much smoother and snappier on the Ultra. Let's go into X. And if we go over here to profile, you'll see that was faster on the left. So far, almost nothing is actually loading quicker on the iPhone. Maybe a couple of little minor loads, but the S25 Ultra, you've seen right there, it was quicker. It just loaded that pop-up first, so it looked that way. But the S25 Ultra has been impressing me with its performance for this 2025 model year. Let's go into Dead Trigger 2. And does the iPhone pull ahead here? No, it doesn't. So not even in the gaming department anymore was it pulling ahead there. So that was actually a good margin faster for the S25 Ultra. And you can see that was quicker again for the S25 Ultra. And again, we're just launching stuff here. We will be doing RAM management. We'll do some real world app usage in a minute. This is just the first beginning section of this test. So you'll see S25 Ultra pulling ahead there. I don't think that it's pulling ahead by enough to justify the cost difference unless you want those extra features like a triple camera. You want a bigger screen. I don't know if the speed really matters at this point. Even at the base level iPhone 16, it can definitely shine and do pretty well. Looks like we are downloading something. I might have to run this one back, so give that a second. Yeah, this says downloading, and we're actually downloading an update. So that didn't happen before I tested it, but we will relaunch this here in just a second. So we are in, and let's close that out. I'm going to close both Call of Duties now that that one's not going to relaunch an update, and we'll see if the S25 Ultra can take it down here. If it can't, then the iPhone will hold true as the faster phone to launch into this game. And you've seen that they're pretty close here. So the iPhone still took it. So the iPhone took it there in Call of Duty, which is proof that even though you don't have the 120 hertz, you definitely are it's gonna come down to optimization as well. Let's go into PUBG Mobile. And you can see PUBG Mobile launching pretty well on both so far. Game mode does trigger here for iOS 18, and we're pulling ahead there on the iPhone 16. That doesn't always mean it gets there though first. We'll see if it does. A18 regular. This is going to be was that faster on the iPhone? Yes, it was. So that actually won there for the iPhone. I'm not surprised. Some of these games, developers tend to make better for the iPhone. And you can see right here, this one though is probably going to the S25 Ultra. And you've seen that this was faster. Now, so far in this test, let me know, guys, have you been seeing the 60 hertz refresh rate making a major issue so far? Just like launching apps, scrolling through those apps earlier. Is it really changing it too much? That animation looked pretty gross right there when we came out. on the iPhone 16. That's something I tend to see, but I don't know if the casual buyers of these phones tend to care. Any regular buyer who's not really looking into every tech spec probably could care less about that. Let's go into InShot. Although it doesn't give them an excuse, I've said this before, it isn't an excuse not to put 120 hertz. So I am happy we are going to see promotion across every iPhone 17. That's pretty sweet later this year, more than likely. In this test though, the iPhone actually won a couple of those games, but the Samsung I think overall took it because it opened more of these applications first. But definitely the games, a couple of them were quicker to launch there on the iPhone. All right, so this is going to be 12 gigabytes of RAM. Let's see how this thing tends to do. And you've seen in my last videos, this thing was absolutely crushing it. I got to come from the side on that one. No issues whatsoever. That was me mistapping. I tapped too hard. This is not a resistive touchscreen. It's capacitive. So let's go over here. And we'll go over here and you can see animations. I like how when it swipes out on the animation, it kind of like follows your finger. So I actually think One UI has one of the sweetest, One UI 7 specifically has one of the sweetest looking animations on the market today. Let's go ahead and take a look now at the iPhone 16 with 8 gigabytes of RAM, the underdog here. So this is going to be a good way to see how that 60 hertz tends to look. And I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up. It doesn't look slow by no means. It actually looks pretty smooth for 60 hertz, but it kind of has like this delay-ish. It looks like a little bit laggy, like when it's coming out, even though it's not. I don't know how to describe it. You have to look at both of them side by side to see the difference. But so far, 8 gigs of RAM is showing almost nothing on the reload. So even the base 16 and 16 Plus are sweet options when it comes to CPU and performance this year. David kept up pretty good here with Goliath on that one. All right, so now what I'm going to do is do some real world app usage on here. So let's go into calendar. We're going to go ahead and play some Call of Duty. Let's go ahead and start multiplayer. We're going to get up here in a match and we'll let this load up really quickly. And as we load up, I do want to mention this is the Adreno 830, and we also do have the Snapdragon 8 Elite, but specifically designed for Galaxy, so it's a little bit overclocked. And one thing I really like about the phones this year, this wasn't really a problem for S24 Ultra, but it's even better here, is the vapor chamber. The heat management on this S25 Ultra is phenomenal. You can play everything, do whatever you want, and you don't get uncomfortable, even if you don't have a case on the phone. So that's really good. So we really don't have, I'm probably not going to win in this one, but we don't really have any issues there. So if I go back to YouTube, you know what? I'm probably losing now that I came out of Call of Duty. So let's bring that back over here. Yep, there I go. You see it right there because I'm not paying attention. But even split screening, I could still move around just fine while I'm watching a video. That is pretty insane performance. I mean, it's not that you can't do that on other phones, but here, check this out. I can also make a quick calculation if I wanted to. I don't know why I would be doing that right now, but you get the point. So you can see right here, we can have 4 applications opened at once, and the Samsung is having no issues running any of this. And then all those applications are right there in pop view. And then if I go over here into Instagram, still ready to go. Here's a pixel. This is my own post. I'm not really going to write anything on my own post, but you can see, hey, this is Pixel 9a, for example, and you've seen no issues. As I pop back over, let's get up out of here. As I pop back over here into Call of Duty, you can see everything is still ready to go. So the entire system does not choke up even when you're pushing it like that. Going over here into video editing, just fine. If I go over here to InShot, pull up this draft right here, you can see no issues whatsoever. I could add some text and the phone just can keep up with everything. Nothing is going to really slow you down here. As I swipe back through some of these old apps, you'll see it'll still have these things held, and it just shows the power and the efficiency. Amazon did reload there a little bit because Amazon will refresh its feed to algorithmically show you different, advertisements and stuff like that for different products. So that's why that one reloaded. But if we go over something to Subway Surfers, that wasn't going to do that because it's just a game. You'll see it was right where it was. No issues. If I come back into Dead Trigger, you'll see it was right where it was. So nothing will slow this phone down. This thing is an absolute powerhouse, as you just seen right there in our real world app usage. Now, unfortunately, I cannot actually do that exact same split screening because the iPhone 16 doesn't offer that. So Goliath does, but David doesn't here. So we'll go first person, we'll hit start, and it's probably going to be in a different, this is Battle Royale, so it's not going to be exactly the same, but it's not going to be hard. So we're going to get up here in the game. Once this starts up, we can move around a bit, and you can see no major issues whatsoever with this. This does look a lot smaller, and I don't like how the dynamic island tends to get in the way a little bit of the screen. That's just something I'm not a big fan of, but if we head up out of there, we go into YouTube. This is just fine. We'll go into Groupon here. No major issues. I do feel like you can feel that slowness of 60 hertz when doing a lot of things, but still, as I go into Instagram and we go comment on the Pixel 9a, this is the Pixel 9a. As I start to kind of go along these, let's see if Amazon does the same thing. So Amazon didn't even change there on that one. But as I go through these, you'll see it doesn't seem to, because it's not refreshing as quick, it kind of feels like, and the animations aren't as quick. In general, the Samsung's animations are a bit quicker. It feels like when I start multitasking and doing a little bit heavier tasking, you've seen that right there, that looked a little choppy for sure. It doesn't feel as quick. This would be rectified by just getting an iPhone 16 Pro, but you can see this is where the base level version tends to not shine so much. It can still hold everything pretty well, but it just looks a little slower. It looks like right there we did have a closeout on Call of Duty. So I wonder, and here we go. RTS was open on these phones. Remember from our RAM management test. Let's see if the Samsung still has that. Yes, it does. So you could see that 8 gigs of RAM starting to fall apart a little bit here. And if we go over here to Instagram, we're still open there. Let's go over to something down here. That's still where it was. So that one application closed itself out. Not a massive issue, but you can see that 8 gigs is not going to hold up exactly the same. So I just feel like for that power user, you've seen when I was doing all that crazy things on the Samsung, that was definitely in the real world a faster experience. Will that matter? I think if you use your phone to make it like your little tablet replacement or your main machine in your pocket that you use every day more than, say, a laptop because you're on the go all the time, the 16 will feel slower. If you have a MacBook, you have a tablet, and this is just your casual phone for communications and day-to-day regular smartphone tasking, it's plenty fast enough, but it's no power user phone. It definitely doesn't feel that way. Well. Surprising results here. Single core actually tended to perform better on the 16. That actually kind of probably explains why we had a few apps that were taking the lead on the 16. But the multi-core is 9108 and it's beating the iPhone 16 here. I do think 3D Mark is going to tell us a substantially different story when it comes to the Wildlife Extreme test. I will say though that just because that iPhone won in the single core, it doesn't tend to feel like a faster phone either way. So in reality, the S25 Ultra still feels like a more powerful device in pretty much every area of the device. I will say some of the apps are still better on iPhone, even on the 16, just because developers tend to, for certain applications, polish them up a little bit better. For iOS, spend a little bit more time because, especially here in the US, because there's more revenue in that venture for these developers, which makes total sense. They got to feed their families too. But at the same time, if you go with the Android device, you probably will find tons of great apps as well, but not all of them unless they're the mainstream popular big time apps. They might not all be quite as well developed. Have you? So anyway, let's go ahead and come back here in a second and we'll see how they perform here in 3D Mark. And we're also going to go ahead and render out this 4K at 60 clip here in Luma Fusion. I took of these Galaxy Buds Pro 3. So let's go ahead and hit right here, export. We're going to go movie. We're going to go to media and photos for both. You can see this is at 4K at 60 on both. And I'll go ahead and export these in 3, 2, go. And we'll see which one can write this movie faster. So right now, it looks like the S25 Ultra is in the win here so far on this video render by a good margin. So I used to think that getting the iPhone was the main one for videos, but now our video rendering, it was always had a little bit more power to me, especially when you use iMovie and stuff of that sort. But LumaFusion's now on Android, which is a great pro video app that you can use. And it won by a substantial margin. Look how much slower this is going over here for the same 4K 60 clip. Same one, same distance, same amount of time. So it's pretty apparent which one is more powerful according to the render of a 4K clip. So that's a good deal. We'll go ahead and get ready on the speed test as well while we're waiting. So I'll start that one over here. While this one is still writing the movie, we'll probably finish this entire speed test, maybe. Nah, probably not. The iPhone's going to probably finish this out, but we're at 340, 350 down while still waiting on the iPhone over there to finish that render. And we're at 376 download. And there goes the iPhone right there. So now the iPhone is finished. I would say that was a good 30 seconds to a minute longer. It was a good amount of time. 40 on the upload. So let's go ahead and see what we are capable of pulling in here on the iPhone over here. And we'll see if we can pull in. Hold on, I gotta actually change the server. Give me a second. I'm gonna change the server, make sure it's the same one, because it was a different test server. Now they're on the same one. So let me go ahead and click go. And what we're trying to beat is 377 download and 40 on the upload. I don't think it's going to happen. Usually doesn't versus these Samsung phones. They just crush it when it comes to these download speeds, these upload speeds. And this also holds true in 5G as well. They tend to do really good in those departments as well. So the iPhone way behind there, like almost twice. So when it comes to connectivity, if you want like faster internet speed on the go, the Samsung has it for you, and upload. So Samsung won the video render, won the benchmarks, except for the single core. And in the real world, it was actually snappier due to the 120 hertz refresh, and had faster animations, and had the ability to split a bunch of apps and still run a game while having a split screen. Clearly a much more powerhouse, and David is getting taken down today by Goliath, which I'm calling the S25 Ultra in this video. The iPhone 16 could not stack up. You probably expected that, but you might have thought, oh, it's going to be close because it's Apple, iPhone, and this is Samsung. Nope, not here. S25 Ultra, just absolutely annihilation on this phone right here. Some people are going to say, Nick, bro, stop being ridiculous. You're talking about 2 or 3 seconds. Not going to change my life. And that's fine. But don't deny the facts. The S25 Ultra is the clear winner. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you all in the next speed test comparison. Nick here. Be sure to be well. And peace.